Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Mathlin, and these are the Deeper Wellness Talks every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I come online and we pick a subject and I chat a bit about it and give you 5 to maybe sometimes 10 tips on how to take what you've learned in the call and apply it to your life. I am a meditation instructor, a yoga teacher, a conscious living guide, a holistic nutritionist, a mom to a puppy, a stepmom, a wife, a friend, a sister. So I play all these roles in my life. And what that allows me to do is give me some good perspective on the things that I think each of us deal with in alignment with everything I've learned with all these practices. So, hi, Rebecca, welcome. I'm going to jump right into happiness. I was thinking about how do I fit the entirety of happiness in a 30-minute call. But what I thought I would do is just begin with my own small journey with happiness. It's a bigger journey I'm going to give you the small version. And then talk to you a little bit about what happiness really is. And then give you some tools and tips to work with. I've already been asked, how do I get it and how do I keep it? And so we're going to talk about all of that today. The first and most important thing that I really, really want you to know is that I haven't always been a happy person. I used to battle with a lot of depression, anxiety, overwhelm, sadness, self-loathing, a lot of the things that make happiness hard. I could tie it to things that I felt happen in my childhood. I could tie it to poor relationships. I could tie it to toxic friendships. Just, the bad experiences that happen to all of us. So I battled with unhappiness, I would say probably until my late 20s. So that's a long time to feel like happiness isn't for you, that it's for other people. And, I genuinely thought that I could never experience joy in a deep, calm, and quiet way. And I should tell you that nobody knew that I was unhappy. I did I'm fine, everything's perfect, big grin, light up a room, all of that stuff. I went through all those machinations every single day. Get up, give them your best. If stuff's bothering you, never let anyone see it. Always be the life of the party, always light up a room. I would offer that this was a big expectation of me that started in my childhood. And I have divorced parents, and as the only child of those two people, I took it upon myself to become the person that created the joy, that created the happiness, because so much was going on around me that felt unhappy. I thought, how could I possibly share my unhappiness or my sadness or anything or my pain? So I got really, really, really good at being happy. And it didn't matter that it was inauthentic. It was so convincing that some of the people that I've run into at this period in my life were like, I thought you were happy all the time. And I have to be like, no, I wasn't. And I share all of that with you because I don't for 1 minute want you to think that I'm someone who's just always happy and I've always been happy and, no. What I'm going to share with you today is what I've learned on my journey, the things that have really made a difference, and also how I've released myself from the idea that I should be happy all the time just for other people's comfort. Okay? Sorry, I just got like a wave wash over me of that period of my life. And my body was like, oh, I remember that. So, the first and most important thing to know about happiness is that it is impossible to be happy all the time. You can have deep joy on an ongoing basis, but to be happy all the time it's a Disney movie. So let's go to the idea of deep joy and what that really means. I am not speaking of getting up and being like, hi guys, I'm happy. Can you see how happy I am? Look how happy I am. Let's be happy together. No, that is exhausting and it's unrealistic. But what you can do is get to a place where you get up in the morning and you don't dread your day. You don't dread running into people or having conversations or even getting out of bed. You can get to a place where the deep joy is a quiet thing that you experience when your mind, body, and heart are in alignment. So externally, it may not look quite the same as the animated happiness that we're told we need to display. But internally, there's a calmness, there's a quietness, there's a self-awareness, and dare I say self-love, that replaces self-loathing, self-pity, or a lack of self-compassion. And it took me a really long time to understand that, because my idea of happiness, probably similar to yours, was imposed upon me by television, by romantic comedies, by family members, by friends, right? I was expected to be happy for the people around me, even when I wasn't. And this is something that is requested of women day in and day out, socially, professionally. Like, you're not allowed to show that you're angry or sad or disappointed or frustrated. You're supposed to be in this constant state of like, I'm so happy, everything's so good, my life is perfect, I have no complaints. No. That in and of itself creates anxiety, depression, and sadness. Because as things are rising in you, feelings that are real and genuine and necessary, you're pushing them back down because they don't fit an external situation. They don't fit what society tells you should be like, right? And how dare you have the audacity to be frustrated, to be sad, to be really angry about things. Those are emotions that aren't well accepted when they come from women, right? We get gaslighted when we expect those things, so we get really good at hiding them. We get really good at suppressing them. And just like we talked about last week in stress, that doesn't go away. It stays with us. And we begin this inner battle between who we're projecting to the world and who we really are inside, right? Because those things aren't in alignment. And because we know that who we are outside is what we're being judged upon, what we're being loved upon, right? Like that version of ourselves is the version we've got to work with. And our authentic self, our true self, our real self isn't having the opportunity to experience life in the present moment and as it happens, because we're so busy pushing aside and shoving down all these emotions. And the reason why I'm bringing up all these things is because you cannot really have happiness if you cannot really experience your sadness. If you cannot really experience anger and frustration, you cannot really experience effervescent joy. We always think that these things are separate, and it's not. It's the same side. It's two different sides, pardon me, of the same coin. So if you're busy shoving down your happiness, your joy, your frustration, your anger, and all that kind of stuff, guess what? You're doing the same thing with your happiness because it's going with it, right? Emotions are energy, right? And when we're young, we get told that certain emotions are bad and certain emotions are good. And we start to believe that we should only focus on the good ones because we don't want to experience the bad ones. The problem with this is that the good ones aren't sustainable if you don't have the bad ones. It's the yin and the yang of it, right? So, what do you do now, right? You know you can't walk around being angry and frustrated and sad and stuff all the time. You know those people. And they're not always easy to be around. But you also know that you can no longer walk around saying, I'm fine, everything's good, I'm happy, look at me, joy, joy. You can't do that either. So what do? What I've learned is that there is a place in the middle that is rooted very deeply in self-compassion. And self-compassion, which is a cousin to self-love and which works hand in hand, is really the foundation of joy and of happiness. So, the first thing I want to offer you is that we have to take full responsibility of our joy. And what that means is, if you have decided somewhere inside of you that you cannot be happy until you get that apology, until you get the promotion, until you get the guy, the girl, until you get on vacation, or until it's the weekend or Friday. If there are all these conditions to your happiness, you will always hijack your own joy. Because a part of you has decided that you can't be happy unless. And you've made your happiness conditional. No one has done that to you. You've decided that you cannot be happy unless something external happens or is satisfied or is fulfilled. And the problem with that is that list never ends, does it? Because the minute you get the one thing, then something else comes up. And you're constantly reaching and striving and trying to catch these bubbles of happiness that you know the minute you touch them, they pop. And that's why happiness feels elusive to you. Right? What I would offer to you is to decide that you are the owner of your happiness, and that the decision to be happy comes from your heart and not something that is outside of your control, or not something that relies on another person or another thing or anything. Your heart is the place where your happiness resides. So often we think that when we get more money, when we get the love of our life, or we start to feel the love, or all those things, all these external things. We wait for these things to happen before we can feel happy. And I've been there and I have done that, and I will tell you that it doesn't lead to happiness. You have to decide within your own heart space that you are deserving of the happiness that you seek before anything outside of you has to occur to make it so. Because as long as you tether your happiness and your joy to an external circumstance or to someone else, you will be chasing happiness for the rest of your life. And you will never have the opportunity to truly experience the happiness that already resides within you. So number one, take ownership of your happiness and hold yourself responsible for your joy. And this is a practice that we have to do every day. In last week's question period after the call, we talked about the idea of like resetting to zero every day. The same holds true for happiness. When we get up in the morning, if we're carrying the weight of yesterday or 20 years ago or 10 years ago, it's really, really hard to feel happy. But if for a moment when you get up in the morning, you say, today we start at zero, and you believe in that, and you just let the flicker of joy arise up in your heart, it will take you to number two. And number two is practice gratitude like a boss, okay? I mean, practice gratitude like it is your job and you're the CEO of your happiness. And you are the CEO of your happiness. But gratitude comes in right at the moment where we can switch to being unhappy or feeling joy. Here's why. If you get up in the morning or at any point in the day and you start to go down that list about why you're unhappy or why things should or could be better, it's very easy to spiral into sadness, into depression, into frustration, into anger. But what I invite you to do is just at that moment, and that moment happens to all of us, usually when we're hungry, usually when we're tired, usually when someone's let us down. So this isn't about never feeling that way. What it is about, though, is when that moment arises, can you, just for a split second, ask yourself what you're actually happy for, what you're actually grateful about. For me, right away, I say to myself, I'm thankful I'm here. I'm thankful I'm here and I can transform this moment. Because I don't want to lose an afternoon being depressed, sad, angry, or frustrated. I've been there. I've lost days. And I would even offer that I've lost years of my life buried under the weight of emotions that were not serving me. And it's exhausting. So just before you kind of slip out, can you think about what you're grateful for? Can you think about the beauty of what it is to have a heart that's beating and that's here and now in this moment? Can you think about the people in your life that make you smile and that make you happy? Can you think about the sun shining and how beautiful it really is, or how green everything looks after a rainfall? For some people, this doesn't feel like much, but it's a beginning, it's a starting point. You know? I say this because sometimes our negative emotions grab a hold of us, and it's like they are pulling us. They're saying, come this way, come get, like, it's the worst kind of peer pressure, right? They're pulling us into this place that we don't want to go to. And I offer you the idea of grounding where you are, coming back to the present moment, and thinking about the things that you're grateful for. And this isn't just some new age woo-woo stuff. When you start to think of the things you're grateful for, your biochemistry shifts. You actually start to feel better. And if you can feel better, you can take the edge off of what's pulling you. It's almost like kicking that hand away that's trying to grab you, and it's like that scene in the movie when you finally kick it away and you're free. That's what gratitude gives you. It's not this like, I'm grateful for everything and everything is perfect. No, gratitude is like, this is my tool. This is my sword. This is my sword to protect me from the feelings that don't serve me. So number one is taking ownership of your joy and not leaving it up to everything that's outside of you and making it this conditional thing, right? Because then your happiness is being held hostage by conditions and external circumstances. And you know what? You'll never have enough money to pay the ransom. Number two, gratitude. Forget gratitude as this new age woo-woo thing, okay? Gratitude is a real tool that effectively transforms your biochemistry and shifts you back into a place of joy. This is a free tool that you can use because you're shifting your mindset. Number three, when you need to feel what you need to feel, let yourself feel it. Because as I said at the beginning of the call, you cannot truly experience your happiness and your joy if you haven't moved through the emotions, the other emotions that are in your life. So what that means is when you're frustrated or angry or sad about something, allow it to move through you. If you need to cry, my darling, please cry. Let it out. Don't hold it in. That's the worst thing. Let it out. Okay? If you're at work, maybe save it for the car ride home. Okay? But if you need to cry, cry. If you are so angry that you want to scream at the top of your lungs and maybe dress it up with the F word just to get it off of your system, please do it. If you have an extreme amount of frustration towards someone, but you know that that conversation is not going to go the way you want it to go, write an anonymous letter. I know it sounds silly, but envision the person, grab a piece of paper, write it all out. Just dump it. Don't worry about your grammar. Don't worry about perfect sentences. Don't worry about, the perfect lines. Just get it off your chest, okay? On a piece of paper. We often think that those emotions are permanent and that they're going to stay with us. So we try to skip over them or we try to ignore them. And I would offer that sometimes if you would just allow yourself to feel what you need to feel, the moment passes, okay? The next thing I would offer to you, and this is a recent thing, right? Because we now can see what everyone else is doing in their lives. We can now witness other people's joy, other people's happiness, and how often they might be experiencing it based on the perfection of their lives, or their perceived perfection, I should say. Right? We see social media and we get all these images over and over and over and over and over again about how happy and how great people's lives are. The problem is we're comparing our everyday lives to someone's highlight reel. I'm not going to post me getting up and having bad cramps and feeling awful and the gray day. No, I'm not going to post that. Personally, because it's not in line with what my messaging is for social media. I want it to be a certain way. I want it to be positive, but that's a professional reason, right? We are conditioned as a society to share our best moments. And then when we get together, we commune on our not so great moments in secrecy and in silence. And so I would offer to you that what you're seeing day in, day out, happening in other people's lives and what you're comparing your life to isn't real. But comparison is the thief of joy. And if you can't handle looking at that stuff all the time and still feeling good about yourself, then maybe, just maybe, you need a break. Or you need to not consume that stuff so much. Social media is great for appreciating other people's lives and being happy for other people. But if you're using it as a place to compare, to judge, to just wallow, social media is not for you. So number one, take ownership of your happiness. Don't give it away. Don't give that power away. Number two, practice gratitude like a boss. Get really, really good at a gratitude practice. Number three, allow yourself to feel what you need to feel in the present moment. And number four, stop using social media as a measure for your life. It's inaccurate. It's not serving you. And number five, and this is the thing that really, really helped me. Decide to love yourself no matter what. No matter what your past has held, no matter what your path holds, you can still love yourself. You don't need someone to tell you that you are worthy of your own unconditional love. Because when you love yourself, you bring about self-compassion. And when you're able to apply self-compassion to your life, you can laugh at the very things that you think are holding you down or holding you back. You should be able to get up in the morning and look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and say, I love you, and really mean it. This is important and necessary work, because it doesn't matter who's saying it all around you. You'll never believe them if you don't believe it in your own heart. If you don't believe in yourself that you are worthy of love, then all the love around you will feel like nothing, and it will never be enough. We'll do a whole call on self-love, I promise. Okay? I know how important it is, but at a minimum, let's just start with trying to say I love you to ourselves every morning. So number one, take responsibility for your happiness. Number two, practice gratitude as a tool for your unhappiness. Number three, allow yourself to feel what you need to feel in the present moment and find an outlet for your emotions that doesn't involve other people or anything. You have to be able to communicate with yourself in a way that serves you. And sometimes that looks like scribble on a piece of paper, and that's okay. Notice it and let it wash through your system. All right? And finally, start to bring self-love into your life consciously, with discipline and focus. Decide that you are worth loving. That brings about happiness. That brings about joy. 30 minutes was not long enough for this subject. So maybe we'll do a part 2. Next week, we'll be talking about forgiveness. I am going to stay on the call for 15 minutes to answer your questions, and I feel like you may have quite a few. If you have to go, that's okay too. If you are on my mailing list or registered for this call, you will get a recording of this in case you missed anything. And I will definitely talk more about happiness because 30 minutes was not enough, was it? Anyway, it's 12:31. I apologize that we're 1 minute late. This concludes the recorded segment of the call. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. I'm going to stop recording, but I'm going to stay on for 15 minutes, and let's talk in the chat, okay? Thank you.